So today we'll Farbrengen instead of learning the text, and we'll resume that actually next Wednesday, not Yisro Chag, but Wednesday. So Shavuos is an enigmatic Yom Tov. Why? Because whether it's one day in Eretz Yisrael or 2 days in Chutz La'aretz, it's so short. Before you know it, it's over. And what do most people celebrate? Flowers, cheesecake, sleeping, being up all night, and it's like a hodgepodge of a Yom Tov. And the one thing that you could say we all have in common, Klal Yisrael, is Aseres HaDibros. And how long does that last for? 10 minutes, 5 minutes. So it behooves us to really understand the mohus. We're learning about the essence of Chassidus, the mohus of Shavuos. And if you understand the mohus of Shavuos, you'll have a better Shavuos. You'll appreciate it better. So let's talk about that. So the famous medrash that the Yidden went to sleep on God. Here they are about to get the Torah on Har Sinai. And they go to sleep, and because of that, we rectify that transgression, that chutzpah, and we're up at night. Isser asked, what's the minhag Chabad? So just briefly, minhag Chabad is to say tikkun. No monkey business, to say tikkun in Hebrew, in English.
With the Mishnayos.
I'm sorry?
With the Mishnayos.
With the Mishnayos, yes. Everything that's in the tikkun, Leil Shavuos, and it's not a Chabad tikkun, it's the standard tikkun that's in the community, and we say tikkun.
Frankly, daven nates or daven normal time?
And Chabad davens normal time. Again, it's not an aved. If you're the type that needs to daven at nates because you're afraid you're going to miss Krishma later, and miss the minyan, then daven at nates. Whatever works for you. But there definitely is the idea of davening. Mute yourself, please. What?
What I was taught was that we stay up all night. We say the tikkun, mikveh at Alas HaShachar, and then go to sleep. And then you wake up and you daven a nice Yom Tov davening, and you're not falling over and falling asleep during the Kriyas HaTorah. But you're combining like the best of both.
Yeah, that is the way Chabad generally does it. Yes, that's correct. But I'm just saying there's no law. No one says you have to do it this way. It doesn't say from Minhagim of Chabad you must do it this way. It doesn't. Yes, Moshe.
I just related to that one point about mikveh. I just forgot what is.
You're supposed to go to the mikveh. It's brought down in the Svarim Magdoshim from Kabbalah to Chassidus that there's a butz that's called the Butzina de Cardonisa, the light of the morning star. The Butzina de Cardonisa is prominent at Alois HaShachar, and again, when is Alois? There's the early Alois, the middle Alois, the later Alois, but at Alois HaShachar, at dawn. And at that time, at the crack of dawn, there is that ha'ora, that emanation of Butzina de Cardonisa, the light of the morning star, and you want to connect to that energy. So we go to the mikveh at that time, absolutely.
So just on a very practical level, mikveh would be, I don't know what time is Olos Shachar, right? But I'll find it, but whatever time it is, let's just say
4:30 or so, whatever, yeah.
Okay. But on a practical level, after mikvah, then one would go. Again, if a person wants to do it this way, person would at that point then go home. Go home after mikvah, rest,
go to sleep,
and then go to sleep. Okay.
Go to sleep, but you have to remember to wake up before Zman Krishma. Or some people, they'll go to the mikvah and they'll maybe saving brachas or whatever, and then they'll wait till 45 minutes later, which is nates or so, and they'll say Krishma, and then they'll go to sleep. you have to make sure not to miss Krishma. So you have to know when the time of Krishma is. If you're going to go to sleep 4:35 and get up at 9 o'clock or 9:30 and say after Zman Krishma, it's not good. It's not. So you have to be cognizant, and you have to know yourself if you're the type to get up or if someone wakes you up. And then I don't know if people go a second time to the mikveh, although really logically you should. Why should you? Because you slept. You slept 4 hours, which is more than the Zman of 72 minutes. So if you whatever, there's no halacha here. But what do they do in Boston in the Chassidus? Do they go again to the mikveh?
I've never heard of people going again.
You've not heard of it, and you and Isser?
I said not. No.
You said not.
As far as I know, it's one time at Alo.
Yeah, I agree with. I think that's the way it's done here, but I'm sure there are those that go a second time. I mean, again, in logic, it doesn't make sense. You should not go a second time. The whole idea of going to the mikveh is before davening because you slept, not because you slept 6 hours or 5 hours. It's because you slept more than 72 minutes.
Well, the logic would also be to daven in eights.
Yeah.
Right.
Right. Anyway, okay, we finished. Moshe, any more questions on that, or clear? Okay. So
thank you.
You're welcome. So the question, of course, is where were the Yidden coming from that they went to sleep on Hashem? So there is the beer that's brought down in the Svarim, and it's actually brought down from the Goin, the Vilna Goin, and many others comment on it, and the Rebbe included. And I want to just give the Goin's beer that they anticipated to become one with Hashem in preparation of Matan Torah. And the greatest way they felt is to go to sleep. Why? Because when you go to sleep, the mind is not like in its conscious state in a sense. There's no inhibitions. So the emes, the truth of the issue and the truth of the connection is pure. It's unadulterated. So they felt, they felt that the greatest way to connect to Hashem is dafke through going to sleep. Because during the day, the awake state is when all the stuff that we have gets in the way. That's the way. So the Rebbe asked a simple question on that. He says it's a beautiful explanation, it's a great explanation. However, if that's the case, why do we stay up? If it's justified to go to sleep, why do we stay up? And the Rebbe explains, the Rebbe takes it a step further. He says, because at the end of the day, as great as being in the sleep state is, it's not reality. And it's this nekudah, it's this point that is the essence of Chassidus, the essence of Shavuos, Shavuos is about the combination of Ruchnius to Gashmius. Yisrael and I, before the Shir, were talking about the Buster Shul and the building over there in Bet Shemesh. He mentioned a word about how the Gashmis and Ruchnius. Sometimes the Gashmis looks like the Ruchnius, and sometimes the Ruchnius like the Gashmis. But the idea over here is that until Shavuos, until we got the Torah, there was something lacking in the avodah of the Avos and the Imois and Yosef and everyone else. Their Ruchnius was an individual Ruchnius and had no impact on the Gashmius. In other words, the sticks of Yaakov, right? That Parshas Vayetze, it says he played around and he heated up the animals and all that. Comes along Kabbalah and says, that's the equivalent of putting on tefillin. Yaakov put on tefillin through the Avodah of the Maklos. That's what it says in Svarim Akdoshim. In other words, whatever you accomplish in the ruchnis, the intent and kavanis, when you put on tefillin, the same idea he had when he did with the maklis, right? Now here's a question.
I just want to make a comment that the idea from the Garav, the Mila being asleep, has an interesting parallel, it seems to me, with the Ramah. Who paskins that sleeping is how you reach Ad Lo Yada in Purim.
Oh, very good. Good thinking. I like it. So After Yaakov used these sticks, Moshe, what happened to them? Were they put in a museum? Were they used every day? What happened to them? Guess what? They could have been thrown out. There was no Kedusha left in the actual stick, because pre-Matan Torah, there was no command, meaning there was no ability from on high, from God's perspective, that Kedusha should permeate the physical matter. So Yaakov's sticks didn't need to be buried. Today, any boy's tefillin, if it's possible, you have to bury the tefillin. Why? Because it's called Tashmishe Kedusha. It's holy. The box is holy, not just the writing on the box. The bias is holy and everything else. What's the idea? The idea is, the Medrash says that there was a gzeira, there was a decree, El yoinim lo yordu lemata v'tachtoinim lo yalu l'mayla. Heaven and earth were separate. The idea is that heavenly matters is heaven, and earthly matters is earthly. In other words, when in shul you're a yid, and when you're on the street you're a Johnny and a Joey and all that, and it's two separate worlds. Comes along Hashem says, I'm giving you a Torah. I'm breaking the decree of the heaven and the earth not joining together. And I want that in the earthly Gashmias, there should be felt Ruchnias, and that the item itself, the Geshem itself, the material itself is holy. And this idea is why the Rebbe says, why we stay up all night learning, or most of the night learning. Why? Because we want to show that as holy as it is to sleep and to prepare yourself on a mountaintop, isolated and everything else, it's greater to put tefillin on one day. With the famous story of a chassid who was a Rav and a very special Yid, Reb Yaakov Mordechai Bezapalov, who was known from the city of Paltova. He was a Rav in Paltova. And he was known as Reb Yaakov Moshe Paltova, the Paltova Rav. And he was a Oved Hashem, and he became ill towards the end of his life, and the doctor said that shortly you're passing on. So he commented, if I knew that my fasting and my not sleeping and my avodah of subjugating my nefesh habamis and not giving into my yetzer hara and the desires, and again, we're not talking about sins, but whatever for him was considered a taiva, would cause that I shouldn't be able to put on tefillin one more day because I died, I wouldn't do it. Because the greatest of avodas doesn't equal putting on tefillin one day. Now think about it. There are many days we put on tefillin, chad, shtayim, shalosh, on and off, right? What? And he didn't say putting on tefillin with my kavanas, with my avodah, with my davening, just the mere fact of putting on tefillin. Why? Because the mitzvah itself is permeated with godliness and binds you to God. And the mitzvah is about God, not about you. My avodah, my fasting, my learning, my understanding, my kavanah, my shuckling, my crying, my laughing, it's all me. And it doesn't mean it's bad, but it's at the end of the day, it's me. But when I put on a pair of tefillin, because Hashem says that these boxes with this writing is heilig, is holy, and put them on, it's not me, it's God. I'm completely subdued and subservient to God. And that's the greatest connection. There's nothing greater than that. When did that take place? On Shavuos. That's what happened when Hashem gave us the Torah. This is the essence of Shavuos. The essence of Shavuos is taking the Gashmias, making ruchnias of it, and it remains in the Gashmias. And this idea that is not just a theoretical one and one that's we talk about. And by the way, what I failed to say before when Moshe asked the question on this the minhagim, if you don't get a chance to stay up for whatever reason, like your eyes shut down, really, and say tikkun the rest of Yom Tov. Try to finish the tikkun the rest of Yom Tov. I tell you that it's, if you can't stay up, no problem. Don't feel guilty. Don't feel terrible if you really can't stay up. Last night I went to shul to daven Ma'ariv. And about Ma'ariv's 9:30, I was there 9 o'clock, and I couldn't hold my eyes open. I literally was, and I was like in pain for not, I just left, and I davened Ma'ariv at 1 o'clock in the morning. I went to lay down. There's sometimes when begashmis, you're not making up a story, your eyes shut down. Now, naturally, if you're going to have a big meal at 10, 11 at night, Yom Tov night, and you can eat rib steak and delicacies and stuff yourself up with challah, you ain't going to stay up much. So, chachamena b'roishay, eat, and the Gemara says that hatzeres be'ina lachem, everyone agrees it's about the gashmias of eating, but everyone understands that eating, you have to eat like a yid, and if you need to stay up, and you tend to fall asleep after a heavy meal, like many people, don't have a heavy meal. Limit yourself. But if, nevertheless, it's very hard for you, then just make it up. I tell you, for me personally, it's become harder and harder, and what I do is, 11, 12 o'clock, I dream off on the couch, thinking, I'm going to still make it over here. And then I fall asleep. And then I'll maybe lay down for a half hour, try to sleep less than 72 minutes. Try to sleep less than 72 minutes, then wake up. So I didn't sleep 72, and then another, and then about 3, 4 o'clock, I get up, and then I'm up till 7, 8 o'clock, and everyone has to figure out what works. The best thing, of course, is to be in shul, around people, to talk. You know what I'm saying? Now, also, one more thing I didn't say before. The Litvische world, I believe, doesn't say tikkun. They learn, and that's to be respected. I know a friend of mine, a Lubavitcher, he goes into a Litvische kollel, he says tikkun, and he loves to see Yidden learning all night. And that's a very admirable, you know what I'm saying? He's a Chabadnik, and the minute he gets to say tikkun, he does that. But he gets a high from seeing Yidden learning all night, which is it's a beautiful thing. So, not a pashte, every community has their thing. But going back to this nekuda of taking the gashmias and making ruchnias, and this is it's a hard avodah. It's easier said than done. That's why Shavuos, outwardly it looks like a hot plotch, of all kinds of, what's going on over here, and before you know it, it's finished. But really, on our part, on the Yid's part, it's a hard avodah, because I told you yesterday in the shir, sukkahs, you got a sukkah, and you got a little nesrig, and here, and Pesach, you have a matzah and mutton and all that. Here, you have, it's you. In other words, here, the Yom Tov is demanding of you, of the individual, because there's nothing to grab onto. Right? We're not dancing with a Torah like Simcha's Torah. The Baal Kodesh is reading the Seres HaDibros, and we listen, we stand up, very nice. The Rebbe, called for all children to be at the Seres HaDibros, so Chabad makes around the country, I'm sure in Eretz Yisrael, and America too. They make these like ice cream parties where they get children to come, even if it's not during later in the afternoon, and they arrange for a minyan, which is very nice, but it's all ruchnius. At the end of the day, you're reading the Torah, you're reading the Seres HaDibros. So that's why Shavuos is the hardest of the 3 Yom Tovim. In other words, if we go about Shavuos, let's get over with it. It's like the end of Pesach, 49 days is Sfiras HaEimer, and the 50th day, and we'll read in 2 days, and a day or two, out next. You can't imagine, I don't know how it's in Eretz Yisrael, but over here, probably half of Borough Park and Cronites and Flatbush, or if not half, a lot, they went to the Catskills. In my days, it didn't exist. Shavuos, you were with your parents, with your rabbi, with your shul, with your people. It was It's become stylish now, especially a weekend like this. You got Shabbos, Sunday, and Monday here. So you start Friday. It's lahavdil, the equivalent of the American Memorial Day is our Shavuos this year. And God bless them. But, when I was growing up, there was no such a musag, this idea. How do you leave your shul on Shavuos? The Torah is being given. They say, yes, sister, yes.
I wanted to say it's a very nice minhag, the community I came from in New Jersey, that the rabbanim of every shul would go to every other shul in town and give a shir, and they would rotate around to all the different shuls. It was really beautiful. It really gave the community a sense of achdus, and that it's not, although we all affiliate with a shul, it's not, you're part of a community.
Yeah. Which community
the
was
Rav Aguda would go and speak at the most left-wing modern Orthodox shul, and
right.
that Rav would come to the...
Which community?
Highland Park, Edison.
Very nice, very nice. Anyway, so this idea of permeating the Gashmias with Ruchnias, that's Shavuos. And if you don't do it, no one's doing it for you. Meaning to say, there's no matzah and no lulav and esrog to grab you. The individual has to make the Shavuos into a Yom Tov, into a celebration. And what are we celebrating? Kabbalah Torah. And here too, the previous Rebbe, Rabbi Yosef Yitzchak, we've been learning his Torah, so it's worth mentioning. He would wish people for Shavuos, and the Rebbe always repeated it. My father-in-law would wish people, and we follow in his way. Kabbalah Torah b'simcha b'pnimius. Receive the Torah with joy, with simcha and innerness and depth and pnimius. So for a moment, I'd like to analyze this Kabbalah Torah. Simcha is necessary to have real Kabbalah Torah. Why? Because if you don't have simcha in what you're doing, it's a matter of time till you stop doing it. And even if you keep on doing it because of outside pressure, it's really shallow, and it doesn't go anywhere, and it doesn't talk to you. So you need to have simcha. Now the question is, how do you have simcha? Very simple answer. You don't need any big lectures. When you help other people, and you do for other people, and you invite other people, you'll have simcha. Even if you yourself don't have simcha right now, but when you help a person by inviting them to your house, or by learning with them Shavuos night, you go over in Beis Medrash, and you see someone who's by himself in the back, and you sit down next to him, you start talking to him, or you start learning with him, believe me, you'll feel so good that you did something for someone else. And that's how you have simcha, because you feel good. But when you think about yourself and your family and your situation, you can become very dreary and, the issues of life. So that's the answer. Kabbalah Torah b'simcha, make a resolution to learn with other people, to talk with other people, to invite other people. And it doesn't have to be in a grandiose way. I have 20, you can have one extra guest at a meal, and you talk to him or her, and you see that they need it. So you walk away. You've done something for someone else. You've made someone else feel good. You've made someone feel valuable. You've given them a purpose. That gives you simcha. So Kabbalah Torah, receive the Torah b'simcha. You want to be b'simcha, and you want to receive the Torah b'simcha, make someone else b'simcha, and you'll have simcha. That's number one. Number two, pnimius. Well, pnimius is a hard avodah. We've been at it for years. Pnimius requires knowing yourself and not allowing yourself to be fooled, not to be convinced you're someone else. At the same time, the feeling and attitude, I am not adequate, I am not good enough, and all of that is the opposite of Pnimius. Because that we know there's always room to grow. So if a person dejects themselves and comes down on themselves, that's not Pnimius. Some people think, oh, that's Pnimius because I know myself and I know my shortcomings, so therefore I'm a neb. I sit in the back and I feel crushed. That's depression. That's melancholy. That's very unhealthy. Pnimius means, yes, you know yourself and you know the situation. At the same time, you know that you are created by Hashem and you have a message and mission, and everyone has that. So the story, which you shared, but it's worth mentioning again, Shaike Feifer, Shaya, the whistleblower, he comes to the Irua, the Chagiga, the event, and all the machers are there, the CEOs, the knackers, the politicians, everyone's holding their glass of champagne, and they're walking around with their cigar, and it's really happening here. And they see this one fellow who's disheveled, and they never saw him. Like, what are you doing here? How'd you get through the doors? How'd you get in? And he, in Yiddish we say, "Er macht sich nicht wissendig." It's like no one knows who he is. He doesn't, and he's walking around. He also takes the glass, puts the cigar in his mouth, and he's walking around. And he says, "Sir, and where are you from? Well, what's your name?" "Oh yeah, what company do you have?" "Oh, I'm the CEO of Facebook. I'm the rabbi of the Grand Synagogue in Jerusalem, and everyone, shows off, and it's really an environment of show-offs." And he's going around, and they see him circulating throughout the room. Finally, one guy stops him and says to him, "Reb Yid, and who are you?" So there's two ways I heard the answer. The regular way that people say the story, the anecdote is, I am Shaike Feifer. I am Shaya, the whistleblower. I don't know anything. I have no companies. I have no yichus. I'm just a little schmecker, a little nothing. I'm Shaike Feifer. My great uncle at Mendel Futterfass, he told the story to me, and he said, you have to answer with, I am Shaike Feifer. In other words, his answer to these knackers is, you think you guys are great? I'm the great one. Why? Because I'm a whistleblower of my Rebbe. I'm a whistleblower of my God. I am a whistleblower of Hashem, of the Torah. So I myself am a nobody. But I'm everybody and everything, and more than all of you knackers, because I blow the whistle and toot the horn of someone or something that's really pure and holy. I'm Shaike Feifer. So he doesn't say I'm Shaike Feifer, with a bent down head and all broken. And I think that these two attitudes is really what we have to ingrain in ourselves and our children and family and friends. This idea that maybe I myself, when it comes Shavuos, and I take a look, how much Torah did I learn this year? How much, Batola did I spend with Dvarim B'Telim? And it gets very, very uncomfortable, and I don't want to look in the mirror anymore, and I say, enough! But if you say, I'm Shaike Feifer, and my Rebbe, and my God, and my Torah, and my Rabbi, and my Shul, there's so much Torah, and there's so much connection, and I am part of that group, and I want to be part of that group, then you feel good. And that's the way to experience a Shavuos, both by focusing on the mahus, the essence of what Shavuos is about, and practically, there's still a day left, right? It's Thursday, 2 days, to think about who can use a meal, who can use a l'chaim, who can use just talking. It's all right to go over to someone's shul on Shavuos, not in the middle of davening, and talk with them if you see that they're, you know that they need it. Trust me, it's the biggest mitzvah. If you take off a half an hour from saying tikkun and you speak to a Jew who needs it, I tell you that you're gaining more points. You're scoring more points. It doesn't mean to say you shouldn't make up the tikkun that you missed that half hour. You should later in the day or whatever. But the idea is to think about another yid, because at the end of the day, that's what Torah is about. And even those that just learn Torah, okay, no problem. So learn Torah with others too. When I was in Beis Medrash as a 17, 18-year-old, so I for years I was learning with Bachurim who were like weaker than me. I got to a point where I said, it's time. I want to learn. I want to learn with the top chavrusa, so we could excel in learning and all that. My principal asked me I should learn with a certain boy who came from Europe, and that's what. And he said, listen, you will do that, you'll gain more. And I listened. I had Kabbalah Soil, I listened. Although I really didn't want to do that, I listened, and it was true. Because when you learn with someone else who's weaker than you benefit. So even in the world of Torah, learning with another Yid, doing for another Yid, is something that is very, very powerful. So these are just a few ideas as we get ready to receive the Torah Kedosha, and you all know that Shavuos is the preparation for the next summer months and till Tishrei. So you have Sivan, Tammuz, Av, Elul, 4 months, and they're all decided on Shavuos. I always say that each Yom Tov is the Rosh Hashanah for the upcoming months until the next Chag, till the next, Regel. So Rosh Hashanah would cover till Shavuos, Shavuos covers till Tishrei, and Tishrei covers till Pesach. So think about it as your plans and what you hope to do in the next 4 months, the summer months, Elul. It's all so. It all should be thought about already in the Rosh Hashanah. You make the plans. You think about this idea, and this gives us the ability to have the Kabbalah Satayra b'simcha v'pnimis. Would anyone like to say something? I didn't. Yes, Moshe.
I just want to ask a question just regarding Seres Dibros. We see that, especially in Chabad, it seems we have a min Chabad, the Rebbe stressed this issue of actually facing the Sefer Torah.
Yeah. In Eish Kodesh, they don't do that?
No, I don't. I've never been in any. Okay, maybe it's just going to say in Boston. I don't know. In Eish Kodesh, nobody. I've never seen any other group, or I'm not aware of any other group that makes an emphasis that everyone should come, men, women, children.
That's one.
And
that yes, but the first point you said about turning around and facing the Balkore, you're telling me that's not the way it's done in Eish Kodesh and in other shuls?
I haven't seen. I don't know. I have not seen that. No.
In general, there's an Indian also, just speaking from things that I've learned, not to have your back to the Sefer Torah. There are some people that are makbid not to stand, with their back to the Aron Kodesh.
That's not. I'm aware of that, and there is issue to that. I try to actually keep that as much as possible. No question about it. But we're not. That actually can even border on a halachic issue. I'm not going to go into that right now. But the idea that when the Balkaida reads the Seres Adibris, everyone, rises. That everyone does, right? Everyone stands up.
I'm saying not just Seres Adibris, but every kriya of the Torah.
Every kriya of the Torah. What people? There's some people that stand.
People stand, and people who face the bima.
Yeah. Yeah, but I'm okay. That's
It's a
true, but-
recreation of Har Sinai. Every time you hear the Torah is a recreation of Har Sinai.
Who does that? In Boston they do that? Who does that?
I'm not saying everybody in Boston, as I've heard this. It's my personal practice, and I've heard it from others.
Okay, kol hakavod. I have seen people stand, but the Rebbe, until he wasn't feeling well, he used to stand, and I was raised to stand, although I don't do that today, because the Rebbe started to sit down. But anyway, and I know people who still do that, but they don't face the Torah. But that's, again, if you have that heritage, that's beautiful. That's great. But in Chabad, yes. Now, I didn't research, is that the way the previous Rebbe and the Rebbe Rashab did it? I don't know. But the Rebbe did it. He turned around and he looked towards the Torah, and therefore the Hasidim did that too. It's something I'll ask my friends on a chat that we have. I'm going to ask about that. Glad you bring it up. But that is the way, Moshe, in Chabad shuls it's done. The second issue, as you mentioned, yes, the Rebbe is no question that he made a big deal about it, and Chabad went along with it, and to bring everyone to shul, and it's not the minig over here in by Borough Park and by Chassidim. It's not the minig, and but that's why a lot of them do it in the afternoon with ice cream for the children. And Meir Sharem, I have a friend in the Beis Yosef Shul, blocks away from Mir, right? He and his family, and they make, I think they can have 1,000 children, 4 in the afternoon in Meir Sharem, and they got a lot of criticism in the beginning. It took them a lot of sweat and blood to push it through, and today already, no one's criticizing. Everyone knows there's going to be a beautiful chagiga in the afternoon. After all, after you eat and sleep, what are you going to do? So they come out 4 or 5 o'clock, and they have ice cream, they say psukim, and then they have a minyan. So, but that is not the minig of most kehilas, no question, or any kehillah. But again, the Rebbe's point was simple. Of course, it's not obligatory, but it's a good thing to hear that Seres Adibris. So the Rebbe didn't say you have to do it. You have to, when you hear something from a tzaddik, and it's not just the Rebbe, it doesn't mean you have to do it, but they're making a logic, and they're suggesting, and because the person is such a tzaddik, it has value, For example, the Lag B'Omer parades, right? So in Geula, they were up in arms about Lag B'Omer parade because it's going to be taruvas, even if you have a mechitza and all that. And the Rabbanim, the Lubavitcher Rabbanim, didn't fight the system. They worked with them, and today they have thousands of children in Geula because they cooperated with the way they want the mechitzas, and I don't know whatever the details are. So you have to be sensitive to the community. And at the same time, when you bring nice things to the community and you work with the community, you can do a lot more. Anything else, Avram? Do you have any thoughts, any questions or comments about anything we learned or spoke about?
Well, it's clear. I'm just looking forward to receiving the Torah. Okay.
Well, you tell me after Shavuos how you received the Torah. I mean,
yes, a lot of light this year.
What?
A lot of light. Looking for a little light this year to come down.
A light. Light depends if your heart open. Your heart has to be light, full of light to get light. Make your heart full of light, and you'll get more light.
Light and love.
Sei gesund to everyone. Kabbalah. We're not going to learn on Tuesday. Imshem Wednesday's the next year. Okay. Take care.
Okay.
Have a good one. Take care. Bye bye.
Yom Tov to everybody.
Yom Tov to everybody. Sei gesund. Take care. Shalom.